Let me guess. You just found your old Pokemon cards in a binder and heard they could be worth a fortune. Or you just bought your first booster packs and want to know what you have in your hands. Hey guys, Julius here. I've been collecting the Pokemon TCG ever since it first came out. And in this video, I'll show you whether your cards are rare, valuable, and expensive. Watch till the end to see a few cards I really recommend you look out for. Understanding Pokemon card rarity symbols. Before we can determine whether your cards are worth anything, you should first understand Pokemon card rarity levels and symbols. The rarity of a card is marked with one of three symbols: a dot, a diamond, or a star. You can find these on the bottom of each card. They used to be on the right, however in modern sets you usually find those on the left. Common cards. Common cards have a dot on them, and they're just that, common. You usually find lots of them in every pack you open, about 4 to 5 depending on the set, and most collectors accrue a huge number of those bulk common cards in their lives. They're usually sold off for pennies. Uncommon cards. Uncommon cards are a bit rarer than commons, but still not anything of value. They're marked with a diamond on them, like so. You usually get around 3 of them per pack, and they're also sold off for pennies. Rares. Now we can start talking. Rare cards in Pokemon are marked with a star at the bottom, like so. In most cases, there's only one rare per pack. This is where the money lies. Just as a heads up, there are deviations from this, such as triple stars or no rarity symbol at all, that I'll show you later. Print variations. All the cards we've looked at so far are what we call normal print. But you're probably here for all the cool shiny stuff, right? Holographic. Rare cards and some others sometimes can also be holographic, or holo, or foil as we like to say. Holographic is the super shiny reflective effect on the artwork of a card that makes it stand out much more. The holo patterns have changed over the years and even within a set sometimes, and I'm gonna link a video here and in the description for you to check out if this is something you want to know more about. For now, it's important to know this is the shiny stuff you want. The early TCG sets from about 1999 to 2003-ish only had holo rares at most. So if you do have a holographic rare or foil rare from that time period, you might have something super valuable in your collection. Reverse holos. Since the Legendary collection, we've also had reverse holo cards. They have an inverse holographic effect around the card, but not the artwork itself. Usually all numbered cards within a set have a reverse holo version, and that includes commons, uncommons, and rares. Full arts and energy cards do not have reverse holo versions. They can be a bit more valuable than normal cards, and they're especially interesting for those people collecting master sets. That means one of each variation of every card in a set. Gotta catch them all. So, these are the basic rarity symbols and print variations in Pokemon, but now it's time for the cards you really want. Advanced rarity levels. Neo Revelation was the first set to introduce higher rarity levels with its iconic shining Pokemon. Yes, very expensive. And since then, we've had loads of different advanced rarity types, such as ultra rares, secret rares, and so much more. There have been way too many variations over the years for me to mention them all right now, otherwise the video would be an hour long. If this interests you, I'm gonna link another video here and in the description for you to check out after you've finished watching this one. Lucky for us, the Scarlet and Violet era has simplified this a lot. Double rares. EX Pokemon usually have 2 black stars on them, which indicates, as you probably guessed, that these are double rare cards. All double rare cards in a set are part of the core set, so the number on the card is lower than the maximum set size. The artwork really pops out of the frame with these ones, but the general structure and border of the card are still visible. They're roughly equivalent to basic EX cards in older sets, where they used to be marked with a light star on them. I know, it's tempting to think these must be worth a ton. Sadly, they're just slightly more valuable than normal rares, and you can find most of these for about $1. Ultra rares. 2 white stars on a card means this is an ultra rare card, and they're usually so-called full arts. The artwork covers the entire card and the border is usually silver. We get both trainer cards and normal Pokemons as full arts. In some sets, shiny Pokemon like these are also considered ultra rares. They're the first kinds of cards we see where the card number exceeds the set number. You might also hear the term secret rare for these, as this is what we call every card that's outside of the set number. In older sets before Scarlet and Violet, these have the same shiny star we saw before. I'd say value-wise, these are about equivalent to V or V Max in Sword and Shield, GX in the Sun and Moon era, and an EX in the X, Y, and Black and White eras. The first full art cards we ever got were Reshiram and Zekrom from Black and White base set. I distinctly remember sitting in a Walmart parking lot with some of my best friends, and I did pull the Zekrom full art. Actually, it was from this exact tin, the Zekrom tin, and we were just freaking out because none of us had ever seen such a cool card before. Illustration rares. 1 gold star at the bottom of the card means this is an illustration rare. Now we're getting into the really valuable high-end full art cards. These are so-called alternate arts of regular Pokemon in a set, like this one. As you can see, these deviate a bit from the standard art style across the set. I just want to point out that in some sets, shiny Pokemon, even though they might not be full arts, can also be considered illustration rares, and they come with 1 gold star. They were reintroduced in battle styles, for example the Tyranitar here, but they've been around before. They're roughly equivalent to Galarian Gallery or alternate character arts in earlier sets. Special illustration rares. Add 1 more gold star and you turn illustration rares into special illustration rares. Now these can be really valuable and expensive, like the GX Latias or the Greninja from Twilight Masquerade. My favorite aspect of these as a collector is that these always depict the Pokemon in sort of a scene or interaction with their environment. Finally, the rarest of them all, hyper rares. Add a 3rd gold star and you finally get to the hyper rare cards, the rarest cards in every set. Actually, it's not just that the stars are gold, but the entire card, including the border, is a gold card. These can be Pokemon and trainers and even energy cards. My own first gold card was this Gyarados EX from XY Breakthrough, and that's another one of those pulls I will never forget. Interestingly enough though, is that although these are technically rarer than special illustration arts, they're usually much lower in value. There isn't one single explanation why that is, but it's probably because these gold cards don't have artworks like the special illustration rares that are considered as desirable. Rainbow rares are another variation of these hyper rare cards that we've seen in earlier sets. So remember, keep an eye out for those stars. The more and the shinier, the better. Just like you should like the video and subscribe to the channel. Promo cards. Some of your cards may come with a black star promo stamp on them, which clearly marks them as promotional cards from collection boxes, elite trainer boxes, and special events. They come in all types and designs, from very basic to super artistic. Money-wise, these can be anything from just a few dollars to thousands. We're not done yet, but tell me in the comments what's the rarest card you found in your collection after watching this video, and tell me how and when you got it. Other variations. Now you know the most important rarity types and symbols in the Pokemon TCG. However, although we're not going to cover all of them in this video, here are some other types and variations of Pokemon cards you may come across when shopping for new products or looking through your collection. Shining Pokemon. Shining Pokemon came with a triple star as the rarity symbol that I mentioned before. In good condition, these can be worth thousands. Radiant and Shiny. Radiant and Shiny Pokemon, like in Pokemon Go or Paldea and Fates, are marked with a very light star and are about equivalent in value as double rares or EX cards. However, a few of them are really expensive. Theme decks. Pokemon silhouettes like these indicate that the card comes from a pre-made deck or a theme deck. The value of these is relatively low. No rarity symbol. In some cases, cards may be missing a rarity symbol altogether. This is often true for McDonald's and match battle sets. What determines a card's value? Now that you know how Pokemon card symbols work, you might be tempted to think all your shiny star cards must be worth hundreds, right? Unfortunately, it's not that simple. And that's because a card is only worth as much as somebody else is willing to pay for it. And the actual card's value is a combination of several factors. Number one, the rarity level. We've just seen that not all cards are created equal. So the rarity symbol on the card and its level give you a first indication. Number two, the population of the card. This is to say that not all cards have been printed the same amount of times, and there could be limited print runs or special edition. That's also the reason why the Umbreon Alt Art from Evolving Skies is the most expensive card from the Sword and Shield era. The hit rates for the card were just abysmal, so it beats all the gold cards in the set and other special illustration rares in the era. Next, the print runs of a set. Nowadays, the Pokemon Company prints billions upon billions of Pokemon cards each year. However, this wasn't always the case. Sets like Aquapolis or Team Up had such limited print runs that all the valuable cards from that era are extremely expensive. And let's not talk about any sealed products from those eras. Number four, condition. Just because a card is rare, that doesn't yet make it expensive in all cases. So the condition of a card always determines its value. Compare here the Charizard PSA 10 First Edition with an ungraded, poor quality Charizard First Edition. Yes, both are expensive, but you can see the price difference is just enormous. A little whitening spot on the side, you lose money. Scratches on the artwork, that's gonna lower the price significantly. Bent in the middle, sorry, almost worthless in many cases. Number five, desirability. This one is a bit tricky because desirability and taste are super subjective. However, there are just certain designs in Pokemons that are more sought after than others. Let's face it, even though you might not like it, but Charizard is the most famous, most sought after Pokemon in all of Pokemon TCG. So those cards, no matter what set they're from, will always fetch a higher price than other Pokemon. Number six, language. The language of a card matters. English is always king, and Japanese, Italian, German, or anything else, they're not even close. Last but not least, age. The age of a card can be a determining factor, but it doesn't have to be. Some vintage cards are extremely expensive, while others can be bought for mere pennies. How to find card values. There are several ways to find accurate prices for the cards you own. After all, nobody can ever know all the card prices for all the cards they have in their collection. I did create an in-depth guide to find the value and the price for every card you own. I'm going to link this here and in the description for you to check out after you finish this video. A few quick tips here though. For modern cards, I suggest going on TCG Player or Card Market. Type in the name of the card, select the language and condition you want. NM is near mint, so nearly perfect or booster fresh. And then you get a super quick overview of the market price for the cards you're looking for. For vintage and most graded cards, I prefer eBay sold listings like you can see here. Select sold listings, type in the name of the card, and then you get an overview of what others have actually paid for the card in the past. I think this is a great moment to talk about vintage versus modern cards and their value differences. First off though, what identifies as vintage? There isn't a super clear answer to this question, and some might consider black and white base set that was released about 15 years ago as vintage, whereas to me, it doesn't feel like that. And then others consider any cards that are older than 20 years to be vintage. True vintage. The general consensus is that anything produced by Wizards of the Coast between 1999 and 2003, so from base set to Skyridge, is considered true vintage. I personally like to add everything until the end of the Emerald era with Power Keepers to that lineup. These cards, and especially sealed products, are going to be worth a ton of money, and a sealed first edition base set booster box is worth roughly $500,000 right now. Modern vintage. Collectors often coin the era between diamond and pearl and black and white to be modern vintage. I've said this before, black and white doesn't really feel vintage to me, and that's because it introduced so many concepts that are modern, like full art cards, to the game, that I would still consider this to be a modern set. So in my opinion, anything up to Call of Legends can be considered modern vintage. They are still worth a ton, but not as much as the quote-unquote true or real vintage. Look out for tin boxes like this one or booster boxes, because they can be worth thousands of dollars as well. Modern. Finally, anything newer than that is called modern. Prices here may vary drastically like we talked about before. Vintage cards are usually worth most in graded condition. We talk about grading in a different video, which I'm going to link here and in the description. However, if you do happen to have some rare holos or EX cards from the vintage era, you should get these graded to increase the value. What cards to look out for? Here are some cards you should pay attention to when looking through your collection, because you might be sitting on a lot of value. First edition and shadowless. First editions, everyone's favorite subject. The first print runs of early Pokemon TCG sets had a so-called first edition stamp printed on them. This can drastically increase the value of a card you own. Base set only in the English release also had another variation called shadowless. Graded versions of these are usually most expensive, but remember what we said before about the condition. Unless you have one in super poor quality, in that case they might be worth more raw than graded. Gold stars. The EX era between 2003 and 2007 brought us so-called gold stars. These are incredibly rare and expensive, such as the Charizard, Kyogre, or Rayquaza Gold Star cards. In the unlikely case you own one or multiple of these, you could be sitting on tens of thousands of dollars worth of cards. As with many vintage cards, I suggest getting them graded by a company like PSA, CGC, or Beckett. Fan favorites. Fan favorites like starter Pokemon and their evolutions, mythical Pokemon, legendaries, Pikachu, and of course especially Charizard tend to be worth more than others. EX cards. Sorry, basic EX cards are basically bulk nowadays unless you have some super special editions or graded versions that everybody wants. E-reader cards. On the other hand, e-reader cards can be quite expensive, so check out if you have any of those. Modern full arts. Modern full arts can vary drastically in price, but anything that's at least a special illustration rare will be worth more, so check out prices online. Pokeball and Master Ball reverse holos. If you collect Japanese cards, there are reverse holo variations called Master Ball holos, which can be super valuable. However, they do not yet exist in English or other Western sets. Illustrators and special prints. Guys, if you watch this video, you do not have one of these. These are cards that are worth millions of dollars, and we're talking about single-digit print runs here. I want to point out that they exist, but there's no chance that you own any of these. Error cards. Error cards are another subject of their own, so I'm going to link a video to that. But errors can be anything from a small ink dot to complete misalignments or even wrongly printed cards. Some collectors pay a premium just to get error cards, and grading companies like PSA have their own marking for so-called error cards. There are way too many factors playing into a value prediction here, so I recommend you go on the subreddits for the TCG or on eBay sold listings for a reference. I hope this video helped you find at least one hidden gem in your collection. If so, leave me a comment and tell me more about it. However, here's a word of warning. I know we all want to find our long-lost childhood binder and find that the cards in there are worth bazillions. The truth is, most of them aren't. However, don't be disappointed. I, for my part, have a very valuable collection, but I don't ever plan on selling it. My cards hold so many good memories that are worth more than the money that I could get from selling them. This is a hobby first that should bring you joy, share it with your friends and family, and don't worry so much about the monetary value. Check out my video on how to have more fun as a Pokemon TCG collector, and then I'll see you in the next video.